What if I told you that in just a few decades, humans might be calling Mars home? Yeah, Mars, that cold red rock orbiting 225 million kilometers from Earth. It's a place where the sky isn't blue, but dusty pinkish red, and the sunsets glow a haunting shade of blue. Sounds magical, right? But let's not get too excited. Life on Mars would be tough, to say the least. No oxygen, freezing temperatures, deadly radiation, and sandstorms that last for weeks. And prepare yourself, no Wi-Fi, no pizza delivery. Welcome to Mars. First off, we've got to get to Mars. This isn't your average 6-hour road trip to Grandma's house. It's more like a 6 to 9 month journey, depending on the alignment of Earth and Mars. We're talking 54.6 million kilometers, or about 34 million miles. That's like driving around the Earth 1,360 times. And guess what? For those months, you're crammed into a tiny spacecraft, sharing limited space with a bunch of other people. So, if you're someone who can't even stand a long flight next to a crying baby, well, Mars might not be for you. All right, let's say you made it. What's Mars actually like? To put it simply, it's freezing. The average temperature on Mars is minus 60 degrees Celsius, which is colder than a freezer. But wait, it gets worse. At night, temperatures can drop down to minus 125 degrees Celsius. So, let's just say it's a bit nippy. Not only is Mars cold, but it has practically no atmosphere. Earth's atmosphere protects us from harmful radiation and keeps the air nice and breathable. Mars, on the other hand, has an atmosphere that's 96% carbon dioxide. Breathing? Yeah, not happening. Step outside without protection, and you're basically toast. Or more accurately, an ice cube and toast. One of the biggest challenges of living on Mars is dealing with high levels of cosmic and solar radiation. Unlike Earth, Mars has a thin atmosphere and lacks a magnetic field to shield us from harmful radiation from the sun and deep space. So, Martian, that's people living on Mars, their living quarters need to be designed to keep out this radiation, which can cause serious health risks over time, including cancer. To solve this, habitats would likely be built underground or in structures with thick protective walls. By building living quarters below the Martian surface or within domes made of specialized materials, we can create a barrier between humans and the radiation outside. Think of it as nature's bunker. Even using Martian soil as insulation over habitats could help shield against radiation. Some proposed designs suggest using 3D printing with Martian soil to build these structures, which would be both resource efficient and effective for protection. Mars is also known for its massive dust storms, some of which can cover the entire planet and last for weeks or even months. These storms create a blanket of fine dust that gets into everything and blocks sunlight, which is a big issue if you're relying on solar energy. To handle this, Martian habitats would need airlocks, like those on spaceships, to keep the dust from entering living areas and contaminating everything inside. These storms are so intense that the dust can mess with electronics and even damage equipment, so every entry point would need to be tightly sealed. Martian habitats would be equipped with advanced life support systems, much like a miniaturized version of what you'd find on the International Space Station. These systems would continuously filter and recycle the air and water, making them safe for reuse. Since Mars has no breathable oxygen, we'd rely on these systems to produce oxygen from resources available on Mars, like splitting water molecules to release oxygen. Every drop of water would be reused in a closed-loop system, meaning water from showering, washing, and even sweat would be collected, filtered, and used again. This recycling is essential since water on Mars would be scarce and costly to transport from Earth. Growing food is a whole different challenge on Mars. With no fertile soil and limited water, traditional farming is impossible. That's where hydroponics, a method of growing plants in a nutrient-rich water solution without soil, comes into play. Plants could be grown inside the habitat in stacked systems under LED lights, producing food while also helping to recycle carbon dioxide into oxygen. Hydroponic farms would likely include crops that grow quickly and provide high nutritional value, like leafy greens, potatoes, and beans. NASA and private companies are already experimenting with growing food in controlled environments, and these systems could become the main food source for Mars settlers. Since natural sunlight would be limited, either from dust storms or thick-walled structures, habitats would rely on artificial lighting, particularly LED lights, to simulate sunlight. This setup wouldn't just help the plants grow. It's also essential for human well-being. Light therapy is often used in places with limited daylight, and it could help Mars settlers combat the psychological effects of an indoor, windowless lifestyle. Some habitat designs include small, thick windows for occasional views outside, but these windows would be much more shielded than anything you'd see on Earth. Since transporting large structures to Mars is highly expensive and impractical, most proposed Mars habitats are modular. This means that habitats would be constructed as small units that can connect to form a larger village. This design allows for flexibility, as settlers could expand living space by adding more modules over time. Some of these modules might serve as laboratories, living quarters, kitchens, or storage, creating a community where everything has a dedicated space. NASA has been researching habitat designs through its Mars Habitat Challenge, encouraging architects and engineers to design 3D printable habitats that could be built using materials found on Mars. SpaceX, on the other hand, is focusing on getting humans to Mars, planning to provide transportation with its Starship rockets, which could eventually help in setting up early bases. Both are creating prototypes and testing materials that could withstand Mars's extreme conditions while keeping inhabitants safe and comfortable. Now let's talk about daily life. It's not all about collecting Martian rocks and exploring canyons the size of the United States. Mars days, called sols, are actually a bit longer than Earth days, 24 hours and 39 minutes. But aside from that extra time to snooze, everything else would be a lot more difficult. You'd have a strict routine. Days would be spent growing food, maintaining the habitat, conducting experiments, and exercising to combat muscle loss from Mars's lower gravity. Oh yeah, gravity on Mars is just 38% of Earth's, so you'd feel lighter, but your muscles and bones would start to waste away without regular exercise. It'd be like living in space, but with red dust constantly clogging up everything. Fun times. What about friends or family? Well, living on Mars would probably feel like an extended camping trip, except without campfires or s'mores. You'd be with the same small group of people, day in and day out, for years. Social dynamics would be tricky. Think about how people get on each other's nerves during road trips. Now stretch that out by about, a decade. And remember, Earth would be about 20 minutes away by radio waves. So no instant FaceTime calls or online gaming sessions with friends back home. It's more like sending a message, waiting 40 minutes for a response, and hoping that by then you haven't already figured out the answer to your question yourself. The upside? You'd be off the grid, big time. No spam emails, no annoying group texts. Silver linings. Now, why would anyone want to live on Mars? Besides, the amazing views of red rocks everywhere. Living on Mars isn't just about surviving, it's about pushing human boundaries. Mars could teach us how to live sustainably in harsh conditions, which might come in handy here on Earth. And hey, you'd be part of a new chapter of humanity. Imagine telling your grandkids, "I was one of the first Martians." And in the words of Elon Musk, "I want to die on Mars, just not on impact." Mars life might not be easy, but the adventure is legendary. So, living on Mars might sound a bit rough, but it's also the ultimate survival challenge. If you're up for the adventure, willing to drink recycled water, and okay with minimal sunlight, who knows? Mars could be your new home. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more out-of-this-world content. Until next time, keep reaching for the stars.